Hello, everybody. This is Willie Sublet III, founder of RightTouch Solutions, and you are tuned in to the RightTouch Rundown, your weekly dose of operational strategy and nonprofit clarity. Welcome back to part 3 of our 4-part series on how to stop chasing grants without infrastructure. If you have been with us the last 2 weeks, you already know where we're headed. If this is your first time, don't worry, you are not behind, you're right on time. Allow me to set the table for you real quick. In part 1, we busted up the myth that grants automatically, magically equals more stability. We named the cycle that quietly drains nonprofit teams, and we set with an uncomfortable truth that more funding poured into weak infrastructure does not stabilize an organization. It only accelerates that breakdown. In part 2, we walked into the reframe, if you will. Funders are not just buying your mission. They are investing in sustainability, aka something that lasts. Because everyone reports to someone, and when we as leaders cannot help a funder tell the story, and we're not in the room to the other side of the table, we have just made the job harder for somebody who's giving us some money. We have to do better. Now, we are here at part 3. This episode, I've been very excited about. Couldn't wait to get to it. I wanted to do it first, but it didn't make any sense. I had to put it on number 3. Because today, we get practical. Feel free to continue watching, or you can go back and catch up. It's up to you, because what? This is your YouTube channel. Do how you like. So, today, what myth are we busting up? We are busting up the myth that states, I will build the systems after the money comes into the account. Now, that sounds very reasonable. It sounds strategic. It sounds solid. Why would I invest in infrastructure for a grant I ain't won yet? Never won any grants yet, you know? Why build a reporting system when I have nothing to report on? Why put resources into readiness when resources haven't arrived yet? You see how that logic could sound right? It's not. I have watched leaders make this exact calculation mentally dozens of times. And I want to be very gentle here, because this myth is often born out of scarcity, not carelessness. When you're running on a lean team, when every hour, every dollar has to be justified and really squeezed as much as possible, it feels responsible to wait until the money is in the account or confirmed before you really start building things for the future. But here is the truth that this myth does not account for. That money usually arrives faster than the systems do, mainly because when you run an organization, if you haven't put that background work into it, that gets pushed further and further back on your timeline. And when that money does arrive, you will not have time to build what you should have built or what you need to build. You will only have time to do what? Scramble and do your best to make it happen. So here is that quiet part. It's very common. You know, it doesn't show up as the decisions you make or you name out loud. It shows up as a pause. It's the moment the leader looks at the application. You see there's heavy report requirement. You see the emphasis on outcome measurements and stuff that's expected. You see the financial tracking that will be required. You tell yourself, we can win this. We got it down. And then once we win it, we can put all the other stuff in place before the first report is due. I want you to hear me now, hear me clear. That pause is not laziness. It's not carelessness. It is the myth doing exactly what the myth does. It's hiding itself in a decision of rationalized responsibility, rationalized reasonability. That pause is the myth. Not the scramble that comes later, not the exhaustion that'll follow that, not the missed deadlines or the lost relationships, those happen downstream. The pause myth lives upstream in those split-second decisions where the leader or board looks at the infrastructure the grant requires and gets that golden ticket feeling. I got the golden ticket. And decides that readiness can wait off for just a little bit until the check clears. As leaders, I'll put it this way. As leaders, I watch, and I know you're not being careless. You're just, again, running lean machines. You're deeply committed leaders who are trying to be responsible with the resources you have. But you must understand that pause is very, very expensive to you. That is not infrastructure you're doing. That's improvisation. Because now that you're paused, you have to build under pressure. You have to build during delivery. You have to build while the funder is already watching and part of you. Now you're improvising. Yes and. So here I want to give you about 3 questions. We're going to get practical because the antidote to this myth is not just mere effort. It's clarity. Clarity that starts with the questions funders are silently asking every single time they review your application. Think about your organization, my friends, as I walk you through these 3 questions. I want you just to put it in your mind, all the things y'all are doing in the boardroom, in the community. Think about, I'm only going to give you 3, and then we're going to get on out of here, I promise. Because thinking about these in advance is the difference between grant ready and grant scramble. We don't want to scramble. You want to stay ready and not get ready. Question 1. Can you track the money? This question is not asking, can you receive the money? Because I know you can deposit a check or put it into your bank account. I know you know how to do that. I'm asking, can you track it? Can you show restricted funds are actually being restricted? Can you produce a report that shows how a specific dollar is tied to a specific program to produce a specific result? If a funder asks just for a simple mid-cycle financial update, could they get that within a week without a panic attack from your board? Let's give an example for these questions. Think about it. You have a round number, $4,000 you won in a grant for a career training program. How are you able to show the funder that all of those funds went to that program only? Because that funder gave you that money and said it's not for general operators, it is for your career training program. Back in episode, I think 5 or 6, it'll be up here in the YouTube world tags. I think it was 6. The focus was, if it's not written, it doesn't exist. The check that comes in is not proof of financial infrastructure. The tracking system waiting to receive it already, that is financial infrastructure. Question 2, my friends. Can you prove the outcome? How can you describe it? I'm pretty sure you can describe your programming. Hope you do. If not, get busy with that. But can you prove it? Because here is where a lot of leaders get caught up. You can track every dollar of the grant perfectly. I'm glad to hear it. Proud of you. And still not be able to answer the prove it question. What did that money actually do? Do you have a system in place before the grant lands that will capture data the funder can share with their own committees and boards and stakeholders? Can you connect the dollars that they gave you to a measurable result 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 3 years from now? Using the same career training example, what was that? $4,000? Yeah, $4,000 that was granted to you. You expertly tracked it. It's in the account. You can see it. Get that question 1 done. It's beautiful. I'm proud of you. Every receipt is filled. So that answers question 1. Check it off the list. But when the funder asks the question, what did that $4,000 actually do? Can you show them? Can you tell them that this many participants went through the program? Can you tell them how many left with a new skill, a new credential, a new job? Can you tell them how many stayed employed after 6 months? Can you tell one story of one participant whose life was changed and it wasn't an accident, it's backed by the data? Tracking the money proves you're a good steward. Very excited for you. Proving the outcome shows you're a good investment. Investing happens over sustainability. Funders need both of those because a funder cannot walk into their next committee meeting and say, we gave them some money and they tracked it well. See how that sentence doesn't end. Where's the rest of that? But they can walk into a room and say, we gave them the money and here is what it built. You see, I'm already pulled in. I made the scenario up. Back in episode 8, we discussed the principle. Check the receipts. Follow through. Has to be measurable, not just felt. The principle applies here in the sharpest possible way. Funders are not looking for just your story. They're looking for evidence, proof. Question 3, my friends, and we will get out of here, I promise. Can you deliver on the timeline? Not do you want to deliver on the timeline, because I know you do. You want to get it done. But there's 3 million things that require your attention as a president, as a leader, as a board member. Email box fills up every single day. And for some reason, you gave the community your phone number and they call it. Can you actually do it at the scale the grant assumes and what you wrote in the promise? Because remember, you wrote that grant. You told them you can do this. Does your team have the ability without breaking everything else that you're already responsible for? Will a program fail because you're focused over here? Do you have delivery capacity? Or are you counting on last minute heroics? Grants that require heroics to deliver results, they don't get renewed. They will most likely get delivered once because it's beautiful. You wrote wonderful narratives and prompts, but you will report badly. And then they'll quietly close out. That renewal is gone. That question really trips up a lot of organizations, mostly in the boardroom, because we are trained to say yes. We want to say yes. We feel the need to say yes. So we figure out how to say yes. Remember we talked about improvisation? Improv is yes and. But the time we spend figuring it out is time that should have been spent preparing. Time that should be spent on our actual programming, our actual board development, our actual organizational structure, to build that with confidence and structure, to create an honest yes. So those 3 questions again, I'll give them to you. Can you track the money? Can you prove the outcome? Can you deliver on the timeline? If you can answer all 3 before you apply to the grant, you are not just grant ready, you are grant worthy. And that changes what happens next in many ways, as we'll get into next week. You know, a little cliffhanger. I would like you to sit with those 3 questions this week. Not in your meetings, not in fancy strategy sessions, just you. Sit with it yourself. Ask yourself honestly those 3 questions. If one of those 3 questions give you any type of pause, or if one is a longer pause than the other, you found where you need to start. You do not have to build everything at once. I'm not saying do that. I'm not saying go out and buy something expensive. SharePoint or ServiceNow and carry on. You can do a lot of this in Excel and Word. It doesn't have to be extremely fancy to start out your infrastructure. You just have to stop waiting for the money before you begin. My sister always says that she stays ready, she don't get ready. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. What was this, part 3? This has been so exciting. If this conversation helped you see grant readiness differently, share it with another leader who is navigating that growth transition. Don't you gatekeep. Don't do it around here. We share. Follow us next week and every other week for insights. And remember, mission moves best with structure. I will see you next week for part 4 as we close out the finale of our series. We're going to walk into some of the biggest refrains of all, and the myth that says, do I have to chase funders at all? Can't wait to talk more about it. See you soon.